Joining us now is Democratic National Committee Chairman Ken Martin. Welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Alex.
So is the Epstein issue the one that Democrats should be concentrating on now, and to what extent?
Well, look, there are huge questions that need to be answered right now. And we've got a con artist in chief, basically, in Donald Trump, who continues to lie to the American people. He told them he was going to release these files, and now he's obfuscating. And, you know, as I like to say, you know, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Here's a guy who was actually impeached twice. He was convicted of 34 felonies. He was found liable for sexual assault. What is Donald Trump afraid of at this moment in terms of releasing those files? He told his base on day one he was going to release those files, the Epstein files. And here we are, right? Him obfuscating right now, doing everything he can to actually avoid any sort of accountability here. The American people, as you heard Leader Jeffries say, there should be transparency on this issue. And our job is to make sure that we're listening to the American people at this time. And, you know, we're going to continue to put pressure on him. It's not the only issue we're focused on, of course. We're focused on delivering for the American people who, frankly, many of them are feeling left behind, forgotten, unseen and unheard, and especially in this economy and what Donald Trump and his policies are doing to wreck their lives. And that's where our primary focus is. But right now, in this moment, there are a lot more questions that need to be answered, and we're going to continue to put our foot on the gas here.
Ken, you did an interview with The Guardian in which you said Democrats need to show they, quote, give a damn to regain voter trust. And then you have Michigan Democratic Senator Elissa Slotkin saying Democrats need alpha energy. What does that look like for the DNC and Democrats?
Well, what it means is we actually have to stiffen our spine and stand up and fight for what we believe in, right? You know, the question I ask people all the time is, if you're not willing to fight like hell for what you believe in, do you really believe in it at all? And that's what's left with in the minds of not only huge portions of our base, but American people, which is they don't believe we're authentic. They don't believe that our party's willing to stand up and use the power we have to actually make a difference in their lives, to improve their lives, to make a difference in their communities. And that's the biggest challenge we have. We've lost the trust of so many parts of our coalition for so many years now. And when I ran for this, I said we're going to get the DNC out of D.C. It's really changing the mindset of how we do business at the DNC. Mm-hmm. We can't just focus our campaign efforts 3 months before an election and hope that we build trust with the American electorate at that point. It has to be sustained organizing efforts, sustained communications, building trust around shared values, and actually investing in those communities in a way that shows them we give a damn. And then when we get elected to office, we actually have to deliver on those promises that we've made to them. You know what? A mentor of mine used to say, you should never separate the life you lead from the words you speak. And too many politicians, frankly, in both parties, they make a lot of promise on the campaign trail, and when they get to office, they don't deliver. So it's both ends. It's how we campaign, it's where we're campaigning, it's what we're saying. Most importantly, it's what we do when we get back in power.
I was looking at a New York Times story, and it says that the DNC is conducting a 2024 election after action review, but crucially in doing so, leaving out, you know, the whole 180 between having candidate Biden versus candidate Kamala Harris, and also examining the policies that she would have brought to her campaign. Is it possible, if you are doing that, which I'd love you to confirm or not, to accurately analyze the campaign without looking at those things?
Well, here's what I would say. We're still in the process. We are doing an after-action review. It's critical that we do. You know, in 2020, after President Biden won, there was no after-action review. And what I've always said is, you know, when you win elections, you're a genius. You made no mistakes. So there's no reason to look at what you did. When you lose elections, everything you did was terrible. You got to throw the baby out with the bathwater. What I'm interested in this after-action review is really getting at why have we been losing ground with voters over the last 20 years? What were the mistakes made last year that we need to fix? And what were the things that we did well that we should continue on? And yes, we need to look at everything, right? But what I'm really interested in is actually things that help inform the future. So questions about who our candidate should have been, whether that candidate should have ran again or not, that doesn't help inform the future. I don't have a time machine. I don't think you do. I can't go back and change that. So what we're really interested in is tactics and how we spent our money, the decisions that were made that ended up seeing us lose that election. Now, I want to remind folks, this was the third closest presidential election in 100 years, closest congressional election in American history. So this was not a landslide, but it still requires us as a party to be introspective, and not just to what the party did or the campaign, but our whole ecosystem. We spent $10 billion Democrats did on our side of the ledger in the last election year alone, right? And so there needs to be an accountability of what we did well and then what we didn't, so we can actually take those lessons and win elections again.
In time for the midterms?
Absolutely. I hope to be able to release that within the next month to two, and hopefully we'll get at many of those answers.
Okay, speaking of elections, let's move to the Democratic candidate for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani, who met with House Democrats as well as House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries this week. What has the DNC learned from his campaign, be it about messaging, about organization, and what do you think about his policies? Are there things that he is espousing that would be and should be applicable within the Democratic Party?
Well, I said this well before this mayoral race started. I said this when I ran for DNC chair, right? The one thing that connects everyone right now is economics, and that's what we should be focused on. And I think, that's one thing that he did so well. He focused on affordability. There was a great message discipline there. He didn't get dragged into a lot of negative campaigning. He really focused on affordability. And then he also did it in a very authentic way. You can't ignore the fact that authenticity matters in American politics. Right now, people thirst for authenticity. Again, they want people that they can believe in, that they can see and they feel that
that'll deliver when they get to office.
Not just delivering, but that they can trust and that they believe that they're actually saying things they believe in, that they're willing to fight for. And so authenticity, of course, the focus on the issues that are resonant with voters, how he campaigned both in those offline spaces, right, in person, going to every borough, talking to every voter as he could, and then also doing that in those digital spaces, right, was really interesting. And what I think was most important, as I said, is he campaigned for something. And I think this is important for Democrats in this moment. Yes, we have to resist Donald Trump with every fiber of our being, right? Because we have to stop this authoritarian regime from building even more power. But we can't just live in that space. We have to give the American electorate a sense of who we are as Democrats, what we believe in, what we're willing to fight for, and how we're going to make a difference in their lives. It's not an either or, it's a both and. And I think that's one of the lessons we can draw from this. Run for something. And when we start running for something again, I think we'll win.
I'm going to defy my executive producer because we have no time, but I know you just got here from Texas. The redistricting attempt there to try to obtain 5 more seats. What are Democrats going to do to counter that? Or should they be doing it elsewhere, like Governor Gavin Newsom has said, you do it in Texas, we're going to do it in California?
Well, as I said, if Texas Republicans want a showdown, the DNC is going to give them a showdown. Mark my words, we are not going to roll over on this one. We're going to do everything in our power to slow this down because it's a craven power grab. When Texans are hurting and suffering after this flooding, Greg Abbott and Donald Trump are using this crisis to try to steal political power. We are not going to let them do that. And guess what? I think a few Democratic governors might have something to say about that.
Okay, Ken Martin, thanks so much.